Hakadosh, Boker Tov, Masechet Yevamot. We're going to be on Memvav Amud Aleph 46a1. We're just starting though on Memhe Amud Bet 45b towards 3/4 downwards in the page, where it says, we just mentioned that the halacha is that a Oved Kochavim and an Eved, meaning a goy and an Eved, a slave that has relations with a Jewish girl, the Vlad is kasher, the child is going to be kasher, whether we're talking about a Pnuya or whether we're talking about, right, an Eshet Ish. Obviously here we're talking about that she was ne'ensa, right? She was violated, okay? Now there's a whole question about this, but now let's continue. Rava Achsherei le Rav Mari bar Rachel. So it says over here like this, Rava, he came and he was machshid, right? Rav Mari bar Rachel. So basically what happened was you had an Avod Kochavim, a goy, that had relations with a Bat Israel, and Rava comes and he says that the child is kasher. Umanye bepurse de Bavel, and he put him as a gabai, right, on the tzibur in Bavel. Now the Afal Gav Damar Mor. Now even though Mor said Som tasim alecha melech, kol mesimot shatam asim al you ela mikerev achecha. That means anytime that you're going to place a king upon you, or lav dafka king, but anything which is actually of a very important, how do you call it? Very important. Appointments, right? That they should always be mikerev achecha, which means from Yisrael and not from Gerim. Hi, Kevin the Imam Yisrael mikerev achecha karim be. Here, since he's mikerev achecha, he's a Jew. So, by the way, this is how you guys should just understand what's going on. If right now you have a ger, you cannot appoint him as an importance of position, right? We're talking about a ger. Here, though, the father was a goy, but the mother was a Jew. So the child is 100% a Jew. Because of that, says he was able to appoint him like a parnas. Because a parnas, you cannot appoint whoever it is, right? That means you can't appoint a ger or all these things as a parnas, okay? Next, another story. Avde de Rabbi Chia bar Ami, at belalahi oved kochavim l'shem inteta. So what happened was the servant of Rabbi Chia bar Ami, right? They went and they put this goya to do tevilah in order to do mikveh in order to get married to her, right? What does that mean? To purify her from tumat nida. So Amar Rav Yosef says of Yosef, Yachilna lachshure ba uvivrata. I could be machshir al pi the din, her and the daughter, right, which was born from her. Now, what does that mean? Sounds like an enigma. What's going on? So he says, ba kidravasi. I could be machshir ba. That means even though she didn't do it for l'shem gerut, she's still considered 100% a gioret. Like Ravasi. Te'amar Ravasi, says Ravasi, milotav la leniduta. What, she wasn't, she didn't do tevilah for nida, which means the same tevilah that she did for her nida helps her for her gerut as well. Okay? So she did one tevilah, one mikveh, and it helped for both. Bivrata, but now it's going to help also in the daughter. Oved kochavim ve'eved abal bat Yisrael avla kasher. Because a goy and a slave that have relations with a bat Yisrael, the child is going to be kosher, as we mentioned above. So there was somebody that used to call him Ben Haramit, the son of a goya. Why? Because she didn't do tevilah for gerut. So Amar Ravasi also said, what, she didn't do tevilah for her nida, and therefore it should have also helped for her, also what? For her nida, just like it helps also for her tevilah for the gerut. There was also another person that used to call him Ben Arami. Why? Because the father did not convert. So Amar B'Shom Levi, Milot Tava Lekiryo, what? He never did tevilah for his keri, right? For his seminal discharges. So Amar B'Chama Bar Guri Amarav says B'Chama Guri V'Nimrav, Halokeach Eved min Haoved Kochavim, right? But now we're going to stop. We just stopped the concepts of all the things to do with the, whether it's the tevilot and things like that. And now we're going to go to something new to do with the giyur of an Eved Kenani. So Amar B'Chama Bar Guria Amar Rav, Halokeach Eved min Haoved Kochavim. If you're going to purchase an Eved Kenani from a goy, Kadam v'taval l'shem ben chorim. What happens now if the Eved comes and he jumps in and he wants to become 100% a full-fledged Jew and a Ben Chorim. So it says here, Kana Atzmo Ben Chorim. He acquires himself. That means he doesn't become a slave. He had to do the Tevilah anyway to become an Eved Kanani by the Jew. But now, right, what happens is he becomes a Ben Chorim. Why? Kana Atzmo. My Tama, what's the reason? Says the Gemara, Memrav Mudale 46a1, because he never acquired the goof of the Eved that was sold. My dekanile, what did he acquire? Right? The zechut of the Eved, who the maknele Israel. He acquired it to the Israel, the purchaser. The kevan the kadam v'tava l'shem ben chorim. So since the Eved came and he dipped himself to become a free man, afke l'shibudei, he was mafkia his shi'abud, his subjugation. Like Rava, Rava says, Ekdesh, chametz v'shichrur, mafkiin mideh shibud. Somebody that designates a shore, an ox, or chametz, or a servant, a slave, for a piraon of the chov, and then afterwards he comes and he consecrates it for the korban, or it's already Pesach, and therefore it's a surbana, or he freed his slave, everything is already going to be the chal. Why? Because now the other guy cannot collect anything. So you see from here that it's not the actual body which he acquires, it's only the zechut ishtamshut. And the zechut ishtamshut, he was now going to be mafkia. Okay? So Rav Chasda comes and he asks the following question. There was a story with Beloria, the Gioret, right? That she came to be mitkayer with her Eved. Her avadim came in front of her and they did to the tevilah beforehand. That means basically she wasn't a Yisraelit yet. So the rabbis came in front of the Chachamim and they said, Kanu atzmam ben chorim, right? Lefanea. They are now all free, right? So it says like this, Kanu atzmam ben chorim. So it's mashma from here, lefaneha in lacharei lo, which means that only if it was done before her, which means they jumped the gun, they were trigger happy and they dipped before her, then they become free. But if they did it after her, it's not sure they don't become free. So you see from here, that means even though they came and they wanted to do it 100% for themselves, and benechorin yudim gemurim, so it doesn't help yet. So Rava says no. Lefaneha ben bistam ben mefurash. Doesn't matter whether it was stam or mefurash. If they did the dipping of the tevilah before she did it, they become free automatically. But if it's going to be after her, then only b'mfurash. If they did it b'shvil gerut v'mura, then they acquire themselves b'nei chorim. If it was just stam, they did tevilah, then no, then they don't acquire themselves b'nei chorim. So Amar Ravavya says, Lo shanu, what are we talking about here? The Evel that he does tevilah for ben chorim, he acquires himself ben chorim. Ela belokech minovei kochavim, only if you're buying it from a goy. Avalovei kochavim gufeh, but if it's the goy which is coming and selling it on his own, right? Kaneh, then you do buy the entire body. Which means this: if you come to the goy and you're purchasing it from the goy, so the goy then he's okay, fine, I'll make you the sale. But it's not that he's coming to do it himself, but the Oved Kochavim himself that's coming to sell it to you. So then Be'emet he's selling you everything. The says in a pasuk, what does that mean? Atem konim mehem velo hem konim mikem, which means the Yisraelim, they're going to purchase from the Oved Kochavim, right, to be avadim, but not, right, they cannot acquire a Jew to become an Eved. Lohem konim zemizeh, and they cannot acquire from themselves to be an Eved. Lohem konim mikem lemay. What does it mean now that they're not going to buy avadim from you? What does that mean? Ilem Masechet Yadav. If you're going to tell me now it's Masechet Yadav for the parnasah, for whatever they make, atu Oved Kochavim l'kalun Yisrael Masechet Yadav. Says what? The Oved Kochavim cannot acquire Yisrael for Masechet Yadav. Active, it's written. What happens if you have a Yisraeli that he became very poor? Benimkar olek and mishpachat ger. What does it mean mishpachat ger? The Amarmor mishpachat ger is over the which means you could sell a Jew for his Masechet Yadav. You're not selling him as a slave, but whatever he makes that belongs to the goy. Elalav legufeh. But rather we're talking about from the pasuk that an Oved Kochavim cannot acquire Yisrael is only that he doesn't acquire the body. The Kamar Rachmana, so the Torah says, Atem konim mehem, that you guys could acquire from them afilu gufeh, even their body. So what are you telling me that when you purchase an Eved, you're not purchasing the body, you're only purchasing his Masechet Yadav, and therefore he could be mafkia his body by coming and doing tevilah l'shem ben chorin. Here it's written that even the goof you guys have. So Parich Ravacha, so Ravacha comes and he says it's mashma from the pasuk that the Israel could be koneh even the body. Ema bekatzpa v'tfilah. He says no, that's only if we're going to say that he's not going to acquire it unless it's going to be with kesef and tevilah for avdut, right? So kashya so then be'emet, it's going to be a question. Why? Because why are you going to tell me now that kinyan and kuf is only with the kesef? So he comes and he says it's a good question. So Amar Shmuel says v'tzarich letokfo b'mayim, which means the Adon has to come and he has to put a love, he has to put on him on a melacha when he's in the water. So therefore you could tell that it's a tevilat avdut and not tevilah for whatever it is, for gerut. Meaning that if the evidence is still going to go inside and dip, you're going to think, so he's doing a tevilah like a regular Jew. He's doing tevilah in the mikveh. No, you have to give him something in the water to show that he's your slave. So when he's doing the tevilah, when he's doing the dipping, he's actually becoming a slave through the dipping. He's not becoming a free man through the dipping. Kihai, the minyamin, you have to do that in order to make sure that this is the way that it's going to be, that he's a slave and he's not going to be a free man. Kihai de minyamin avde de Ravashi, just like Minyamin, the servant of Ravashi, Balet Mule. So you wanted to do a tevilah to become an Avid Kenani. Masre Nihale le Ravina. So he gave him to Ravina, Ravacha ber Rava. Amalu, and he said, Chazu de minaychu kabayit le. Look, right, which means that I'm going to come and get the money from you if I'm going to take him out through tevilah. Ramule arvesa betzavare. They put something on his like an aniva and his tzavar. The arpule v'tzemtzumule. So therefore they went and they tightened it and they made it softer, right? Arpule kechedolo chatzitza. They made it softer in order that it shouldn't be a chatzitza, because if it's going to be too tight around the neck, so then it's going to be a chatzitza. But then afterwards, after you already went in, they tightened it in order that he shouldn't say that he's doing it as a ben chorin. Because the second that he's picking his head up from the water, they're going to put a kli full of teeth on his head, and they're going to tell him, go to the house of your master. Which means they did this trick in order to make sure that there's no monkey business. And I said, all of a sudden the guy's going to come up, I did it for freedom, and then no. Right away they come, they have the noose around his neck, and so on and so forth. Amaleh of Papa Lerava, says the Papa to Rava, Chazi mor hani de bar Papa bar Abba. So he says, do you see those people from the house of Papa bar Abba? That they used to pay, right? The Masa Gulgolet. Remember, the Masa Gulgolet is taxes, right? So they used to pay them. And they used to be mishtabed to become like Avadim. So Kinafki, when they're coming out lecherut, right, which means that after they worked for the amount of time and now they paid off their taxes, do they need a get of cherut or not? So imagine, you have to pay taxes. You don't have enough money to pay the IRS. So what do? You become a slave for whatever it is. You have to pay $100 of taxes. You have to work a week, right? To do 1,000, let's say a month, whatever the amount. Yeah. So now, after you've already worked that amount, you need a get of cherut or not? A liberation document or not? Elmaleh tells him, right? If he would have gone to his world, and he wouldn't have been able to tell him this halacha, this word of Sheshat says, the chotam of the avdut is already placed in the tevat melech, which means we're already anyway slaves to the king. We have to pay taxes. So therefore he could come and he could acquire anybody that he wants. Umalka Amarna, the king says, that the king says that someone that doesn't want to pay the taxes, he's going to become subjugated to the one that pays taxes. So therefore, when they are going to come and they're going to become freed, they need to get shichrut. Why? Because we are already slaves to the king. So since we're already slaves to the king, so now we need a document of liberation. So Rabbi bar Abba, he went to Gavla. Gavla is a name of a place which they weren't been in Torah over there. So he saw that there were a lot of Benot Israel, that they were becoming pregnant from Gerim, that they did the Milah for Gerut, but they didn't do Tevilah for Gerut. Remember, to become a Ger, it's not just enough a Brit Milah. You need a Brit Milah plus Tevilah. Now you also need it obviously in front of a Bedin, and there's a lot of rules, but this is the minimum. You need Milah and Tevilah, meaning somebody's going to come, he's going to go to the hospital, he's going to ask for a Brit Milah. After he's going to say, I did it for milah for gerut. Doesn't help. You need milah plus tevilah. You need tevilah also as well. Plus you need the bedin and so on and so on, like I already told you. So he saw wine of the Jews. Right? That the goyim were pouring wine. The shatu Yisrael, and the Jews were drinking it. He saw that the goyim were coming and cooking food. Tulmusin is a type of a food, like a beans, right? So he says, right? So he says, and they were eating it. So they're eating bishul goy. And they didn't say anything. Yeah, they didn't say anything. So he says, Ata came in Rabbi Yochanan, so they came in front of Yochanan. Elmaleh, he said, go and tell everybody that their children are mamzerim. Why? Because we're going to explain why their children are going to be mamzerim. Their wine is all the ainesech. All their foods, it's bishul of the chovim because bishul goy. Because they're not bnei Torah. So says the Gemara, al bneihem shel mamzerim. Why are the children mamzerim? At the end of the day, it's like a goy that has relations with a bat Yisrael. The child is kosher. He's not a mamzer. Rabbi Yochanan goes according to his reasoning. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's never considered a convert until he does milah and tevilah, brit milah and tevilah. So since he didn't do tevilah, he's a goy. According, there's a machloket. According to Shitat Rabbi Yochanan says that a goy or a slave that has relations with a regular Jewish woman, the child is a mamzer. So therefore, that's why, right, he holds that older children are going to be mamzerim. Okay? So the Gemara says, Valinam mishum yain nesech. Why is there wine yain nesech? Mishum lech lech. Amrin nezira schor schor lekarmal tikra. What does that mean? Even though mi'ikar adin, the pouring of the wine is going to be oseh, still Rabbi Yochanan wanted to say that their wine is yain nesech because he wanted to say that for a nazir, make sure that you get him far away from the yain. Which means, because the question he was here over here, there was only mezigat yain is asur, yain nesech. Here, he just saw the mazgut of deko chavim v'shatu Yisrael, right? He says that the wine of the goyim. He says, what's mi'ikar adin? He says it's not going to be oseret because he didn't touch in the wine. Ela shafach mayim letucho. He did mezigah. Remember, what is yain nesech? Yain nesech is if the goy touches the wine, right? Now it becomes yain nesech. What if the goy doesn't touch the wine? The wine is here. It's there. The goy comes in his mozek mayim bifnim, right? As Omer HaGemara, mi'ikar adin and shum bayah. Lama ulo naga bayayin. בגלל שהוא לא נגע ביין, אז אנחנו אומרים לא, אבל עדיין זה יהיה נסך. למה? הוא אומר, לך אמרין הנזירה. זאת אומרת, אנחנו אומרים לנזיר, תלך רחוק מפה. למה? סחור, לכמת, אל תתקרב לכרם. הכרם זה הוויניארד, כן? So don't come close to this vineyard. Stay far away. Why? We don't want you to be... What was the third one? תורמוסין משום משולב דקרובים. If you share in Torah, what's the first shot? Have in Torah shay his wife. They're in Torah. Then you're allowed to cook your termasin. I don't understand. Is it bishul goy or not bishul goy? If you could eat it raw, that turmus cannot be eaten raw. There is a problem with bishul goy. So answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan kid of the Shnesil. Rabbi Yochanan holds like that the Lashnishnah. The Amar Shmuel Bar Yisrael Ben Shmuel Derav Kol Shein Oleh LaShulchan Melachim Lechol B'Tapat Em Bishul of Dechovim. There's two different reasonings, and we actually pass them like both. Number one, Eno Nechal Kemot Shulchai, which means that you can't eat it raw. Number two, Oleh LaShulchan Melachim. So we need both Tanaim in order to be Machmir. Here he says V'Tamad Dem B'nei Torah only because they're not B'nei Torah. But if they are B'nei Torah, it would have been permitted because Be'emed, that means only because they're not B'nei Torah. That's why he didn't want to permit them, because if not, it's not Oleh LaShulchan Melachim. But he didn't want to start permitting them things, as if not, all of a sudden, for them, everything becomes mutar. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita. Ger shemal velo taval. If a ger comes, and he's going to do milah for gerut, but he doesn't do tevilah, Rabbi Eliezer said, as is a ger, it's still a ger. Shekamatzim avotenu. What about avotenu, that they came out of Mitzrayim? Shemal velo tavlu. There, they did milah, but they didn't do tevilah. Meaning in Mitzrayim, when we left Mitzrayim, everyone did milah, but nobody did tevilah. And they were still fitting to receive the Pnei Shekhinah by Kabbalat Torah. Taval velo mal, but if they did the opposite, what happens if they did tevilah, but he didn't do milah? Rabbi Yoshua made it as a get. It's also a get according to Rabbi Yoshua. Shekematzinu b'imaot. What about the women? The women, he says tavlu lo malu. Chachamim says no. Taval velo mal velo taval, en ger ad shimon v'itbod. Right? That's how we see that we're paskening like Chachamim. That the Chachamim are saying no. that whether they did tevilah without milah or milah without tevilah, it's not considered a get until you do both milah and tevilah. Rabbi Yoshua, according to Shtat Rabbi Yoshua, he learned it from the imahot. Why don't you learn it from the avot? And the avot, they did do milah and not tevilah. So then you should say the tevilah is not me'akevet. And Rabbi Eliezer, he should have learned from the imahot that they did tevilah without the milah, that the milah is not me'akevet. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me a very famous clause, en danin efshar mishi efshar, you cannot learn something which is possible for something which is not possible. I cannot learn the halacha from men from women, but you can't do bri milah to women. So if you can't do bri milah to women, you cannot learn efshar mishi efshar. You cannot do bri milah to women. The Tanya we learned in the Braita. Eliezer says, how do we know that whenever you're going to bring a Pesach for all generations, Korban Pesach, how do we know that it always has to come from chulin money? You cannot buy it from Maaser Sheni money. Because it says Pesach by Parashat Mitzrayim, and it says Pesach by Dorot. Just like the Pesach, which is brought from Mitzrayim, it will be coming from the chulin, and not from Maaser Sheni, because they weren't chayav in Maaser Sheni Yadayim. Af Pesach Amul Dorot, so too Pesach, which is brought down for generations, can only come from the chulin. Rabbi Akiva says, can you compare both cases? There, it didn't exist Maaser Sheni yet in Mitzrayim. So what do you want? Obviously, it's coming from chulin. But here, maybe if you can do it from a Maaser Sheni, you could do it from Maaser Sheni, right? Amarlo, he says, even though you can't do it, right? That means you can't learn from it because it didn't apply. Still, it's a raya gdola. It's a very big proof, and you can learn from it. Hella, but rather, Memvav Mubet 46b. Betaval velomal, if you did tevilah and you didn't do milah, kule almalo plige de mehani, whether Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Yoshua, they don't argue that it helps for gerut, which means, right, one more time, if we did tevilah and not milah, according to everybody, it does help. So ki plige, when is the machloke then? Bemal velo taval, if you only did the milah and not the tevilah. Rabbi Eliezer yalif me'avot, Rabbi Eliezer learns from the avot, the kedoshim, that they did milah and not tevilah, and they were still considered gerim. Rabbi Yoshua be'avot nami tevilah, he says no. By the avot in Mitzrayim, they also did tevilah. That means they did milah and tevilah. So you can't learn it from there. Menale, how does he know that? So he says, you're going to tell me that was written in the Torah. It says in the Torah, Parashat Yitro, it's written over there, go to the nation, sanctify them today and tomorrow, and then change your clothing. Right? He says, in a place where a person has to purify himself, he does not have to put his clothing in a mikveh. Tavun tevilah, he himself needs tevilah. Makom sheton kibus. Here, if you didn't need to put your clothing in the mikveh, and din sheton tevilah, then kavachomen. If right now you have to go to the mikveh, Rabotai, you listening? Right now you have to go to the mikveh. You have to put your clothing in the mikveh? No. You go to the mikveh, the right? That's it. So here, if you have to put your clothing in the mikveh, so kavachomen that you yourself you have to go in the mikveh. So says the Gemara, why? The dilma nekiu be'almau. It was just some. It's just to put yourself into to become clean, and that's it. So says the Gemara, but from over here, it says vayikach Moshe et adam v'yizrok al ha'am. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu took the blood of the korbanot and he threw it on the people. Ugmide, we have a masoret, a kabbalah biyadenu, de'en haza'ah belo tevilah. It doesn't exist haza'ah, sprinkling of blood or anything without tevilah beforehand. That means anytime that you are going to do some type of haza'ah, sprinkling, whether it's the water of the paraduma, whether doesn't matter what it is. Whenever there's a haza'ah, there's a prerequisite, a requirement beforehand. What is that? To do tevilah, right? So the Gemara asks Rabbi Yoshua, tevilah b'ma'u b'nala. Fine. And according to Rabbi Yoshua, how does he know that the imahot, they did tevilah without milah? How do you know that they did tevilah b'chla? So answers the Gemara, svarahi. How do the women accept themselves the Shekhinah? Obviously, they did tevilah, and by doing the tevilah, that's how they accept upon themselves, right? The Shekhinah. Okay? Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Leolam eno ger ad sheitmol ve'itbol. So again, he's not going to become a ger until he does milah and tevilah. So ask the Gemara Pshita, obviously, right? Yachiv Rabbi Melachak Rabim. We paskin like the Chachamim, right? Which means the Chachamim said that you needed both. It's not just one. So we paskin obviously. So says the Gemara, Man Chachamim. Who is Chachamim here? It's Rabbi Yosef. It's also one person. Meaning, if Chachamim was a big group, then obviously Yachiv Rabbi Melachak Rabim. But here the Chachamim was only one person as well. It's Rabbi Yosef. The Tanya was learned to the Braita. Imagine somebody comes and he says that he did a brit milah for gerut, but he didn't do tevilah. So the bedin have to come and matbilin oto. They have to do tevilah for him. Uma bekach. Now what do we need this for exactly? Right? So he says, right? Why? Because you don't lose anything. At the end of the day, you do it in Tevilah. These are the words of Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, en matbilin. We don't do it. Why? Because the gerut was not chal unless you do both of them l'shem gerut. Meaning you need both of them for gerut. You cannot do one of them not for gerut. You understand? So that's why it's very, very important. Lefichach, therefore, matbilin ger b'Shabbat, you're allowed to do tevilah for a ger in Shabbat, right? If he did the brit milah before Shabbat. These are the words of Yehuda. Why? Because once he became a ger through a milah, so then the tevilah, right, is not mitakenet oto. So he's allowed to do tevilah on Shabbat. Because remember, you're not allowed to do a tikkun on Shabbat. Here there's no tikkun because he already became a Jew through the milah which preceded the Shabbat. So now he's just dipping, in the mikveh, but it's not a tikkun. Rabbi Yosef says no, emat tefillin. You cannot do the mikveh on Shabbat. Why? Because of the tikkun. So Amar more says the fichach matpilin ger b'Shabbat. Therefore it says Rabbi Yehuda, you could do tevilah for a ger on Shabbat. So says the Gemara Pshita obviously. Since Rabbi Yehuda says one of them is enough, meaning or milah or tevilah, one or the other is going to be enough. So therefore, if he did the milah in front of us, so matbilin, so obviously we're going to do the tevilah. So then what's the chidush? Lefichach, therefore, what's the chidush? It says no. I would have thought to say that Rabbi Yehuda tevilah ikar. I would have thought to say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the tevilah is the ikar, and tevilah b'Shabbat lo. That you cannot do that. Means even though he says one is enough, either the milah or the tevilah. What is the ikar? The ikar is the tevilah. So I would have thought to say that you can't do the tevilah b'Shabbat. Why not? The kamitakin gavra, because you're fixing the human being. Kamashvalan the Yehuda oha bai. According to Yehuda, selam shos. There's no difference between milah and tevilah. They're both the ikar. Okay. Then we said Rabbi Yosef Omer en matfilim b'Shabbat. Rabbi Yosef says you cannot do tevilah on Shabbat. So says the Gemara Pshita obviously. The Kevin Rabbi Yosef says tarte bayinan. You need two of the things, meaning you need both things. Milah and tevilah. Tekuni gavra b'Shabbat. You can't be do tikkun on Shabbat. So he says no. Ma'od the time I would have thought to say that Rabbi Yosef milah ikar. I would have thought to say the opposite. That according to Rabbi Yosef, the milah is the ikar more than the tevilah. The hatam over there, the law havai milah b'freinu. But there was no brit milah in front of us. So since there was no milah in front of us, that's why you couldn't do the tevilah. But if there was a brit milah in front of us, since the milah is the ikar, I would say that you could do tevilah on Shabbat as well. Kamashmanan comes teach you the Rabbi Yosef tarte b'ay. According to Rabbi Yosef, you need both of them. Okay, a story. Amar Rabba comes and he says, Uvdava beRabbi beRabbi. There was a story with Rabbi beRabbi, Rabbi Yosef Matni, Rabbi Yoshia beRabbi, or Rabbi Yoshia beRabbi, Rabbi Matni, Rabbi Yoshia beRabbi. That it came in front of him a ger shemal velo taval. A ger that came in front of the din, he did brit milah, but he didn't do tevilah. Amarle, he says, Sheikan al machar, you have to wait until tomorrow, then belinach, and then we're going to do tevilah for you. Which means, right, that this came during the nighttime. Okay, so since it came during the nighttime, he came and he said, you have to wait until the next day. Shema minat tlat. So we learn from here three things. Shema minat, number one, we learn, get it tzarich shlosha, you need three people. Right? Why? Because he needed that there should be three people, three rabbis there in order to do the tevilah. But it's not just that the one rabbi is going to see it and say, now the guy's good. No, he needs three rabbis. Number two, Shema Mina, and I'll get a Shimon Ridbol. Number two, not only do you need three rabbis, it's not again until you do Milah and Tevilah. Shema Mina, we also learn number three, we don't do it at night time. All the geruts have to be done during the day. So says the Gemara, why don't we also say that we need mumchim, which means that we need three dayanim mumchim when they come to do bimit kayem. Meaning I can't just take stam three people and say that these are rabbis and now that's it. You need mamash dayanim mumchim, people which are experts. So says the Gemara, Dilma Diklau. He says, no, maybe there will be three people, right? The entire time, right? He says, any three people, right? Even Hedyotot would actually help. So maybe you don't need the mamash three mumchim. So Amar Rechia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. It says Rechia bar Abba name Rabbi Yochanan. Ger tzarich shlosha. How do we know that ger needs to be done in gerut has to be done in front of three rabbis? Because it says mishpatim. Because it's written mishpat. It says mishpat echad yelachem kager keezrach. So therefore we need mishpat. How much is a mishpat? Three people. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the right. Tavisha ba ve'amar gerani. Imagine a person comes and he says he's a ger. Yachol nekablenu. Well, we're just going to accept him, right? Even without telling him that he has to do a tefillah damrit and tefillah. Talmud Lomar comes teach you. He has to have a chazakah that he's a ger. Only if he comes with his witnesses, Minayin, how do we know? So he says, Samulumar v'chiyagur iticha get. Umashma v'chiyagur means if he brings gerim, so then, if he brings edim, so he's going to be considered a get. Meaning a person can't just come and say, yeah, I'm a get. Oh, a get. Prove it. You don't have a proof? Nothing. If you bring witnesses, right, that they were there, so then it's going to be okay. Right, nowadays, obviously, they have the paper from the Bedin. The paper from the Bedin is the exact same thing. No, for sure, no, it doesn't help. Goyim do bring Milah nowadays. Even nowadays, even in the back. Be'aretzechem. What does it mean, Be'aretzechem? En li ela ba'aretz. I only know in the land in Eretz Yisrael. Right, but Chutz Haaretz Yunayin. How do we know that it also happens in Chutz Haaretz? So he comes and he says, Tamulumar itecha. Any place where you have it, you have to bring a raya from the aretz. You don't have to bring a raya in the chutz aretz. These orders of Rabbi Yehuda. No. Doesn't matter whether it's in the chutz aretz. You always have to bring a raya. You always have to bring a proof.